sehr schöner Chablis, den ich heute im Glas habe. Chablis kommt ja aus dem nördlichen Burgund, ist ein Chardonnay, wird aber nur auf eine bestimmte Art ausgebaut, nämlich im Stahltank oder im großen Holzfass, also nicht im Barrique. Und Chardonnay kann auf viele Arten ausgebaut werden. Dadurch hat er auch durch die Lage natürlich nicht so weit weg von der Champagne eine starke Mineralität durch den Kalkboden und eine schöne Säure auch durch das kühle Klima. Und ich hoffe, liebe Freunde, dass ihr was ebenso Schönes bei euch im Glas habt und begrüße euch ganz herzlich zur neuen Ausgabe von Clinical Intelligence. Let's go! Hello, my dear friends, and very welcome for our next edition of Clinical Intelligence. Our guest today is my dear friend Richard Cheng. First I heard of him during COVID times. Actually, that's now 6 years ago. It was a crazy time, but we still remember this period of our life. And actually, I read in I think it was the Zurich newspaper NCC, and he was hailed as the hero of Shanghai for his incredible results of his high-dose vitamin C therapy in COVID patients. And that is when I thought, okay, I have to talk to this guy, and I invited him to come to Switzerland. But when our meeting was supposed to take place, it was the first weekend of November, there was again the new lockdown. So that was the second lockdown in the autumn. But since Richard is unstoppable, he came to Switzerland anyway, and he was, I think, the only speaker we had physically on stage and not online. And it was great to learn about his ideas and about his concept. And since then, we were staying in contact all the time. And especially this year, my daughter Coco was able to spend a week together with Richard in Shanghai and to follow him for 1 week. And she couldn't believe, she couldn't understand his energy. She told me, Daddy, Richard is a monster. I don't know when he's sleeping. He has the most incredible energy I've ever seen. So that is really remarkable. And I believe he attributes his energy to his ketogenic diet. But we're going to talk about that. Okay, now let's jump into the interview. Richard, thank you so much for being here and for taking the time. And I really like your approach of describing nutrition not as a diet concept, but as a metabolic control, like as a metabolic instrument to steer a patient's individual metabolism according to the life situation or to the disease state. Because of course, the diet of, for example, an athlete should be totally different than for a cancer patient. And could you quickly walk us through this really intelligent concept I would say you established in your practices in Shanghai and in the US?
Yeah, thank you again, Ulrich. Very nice to see you here again, because this year we've been seeing each other more often. Actually, so I was on your local newspaper in Zurich, huh? So that's interesting. I didn't know that. Okay. Again, thank you again. 6 years ago, I was invited to go to your conference, and well, you said lockdown. Actually, lockdown in Switzerland at that time compared to what happened in China was not a big deal at all. I traveled from Shanghai to your place and then back to US. So I know how that was. Actually, interesting. First of all, I want to bring something. Since you mentioned that. We tend to think nutrition, vitamins are for health maintenance and chronic disease. We never thought of it as like acute disease treatment. Well, the COVID pandemic proved, at least to me in first hand, hand experience, we not only can prevent acute diseases like a pandemic, but also I was able to rescue, yes, literally saved quite a few lives from ICU all over the world. I had consultations from France, England, United States, in Asia like Philippines and China. People were on, in ICU, on the breathing machine, and we had to kind of sneak in because hospitals don't allow these high dose vitamins, hydrogen peroxide. Anyway, long story short, it's really amazing miracle. Personally, I had never taken any, vaccine shots. I never believed in it. And I tested more than a dozen times because, back in US, when I go into the hospital with my health care, they require, these vaccine, these PCR tests. I never turned positive. And I never had any serious, cold or fever for the last 20 years, actually, not just only 6 years. And you know how I did it? Well, you know it, is that I've been, I can forget, I can forget a meal or some other things, but my practically daily high dose, what I call also molecular supplementation, doses of supplementation, I will never skip. And that's where my energy comes into. That will talk a little bit later. So that's for acute, because people, because yes, high dose vitamin C's, D's, and the other antioxidants, they can save lives. But also coming back to chronic, now we
Uh,
are luckily, thank
Richard, just
God.
a quick question. Um,
Yes.
um, Talking about high dose vitamin C, what we are talking about? I mean, I believe on one
Yes.
side it will be like you're going to administer like IVs and as well orally. So could you let us
Yeah,
understand
actually,
what?
you bring up a very good question. First of all, how do we understand? Let me back up a little bit. Let me kind of generalize a little bit. Vitamins, nutrients, you can practically classify them into like two general categories. One category actually is actually very safe, like vitamin C, magnesium, some others, no matter how high doses, actually you don't really develop serious side effects for most people under physician supervision, of course. But then there's another type of vitamins, nutrients, for example, vitamin D. When you give very high doses, potentially you can run into like kidney stones. So that's the general category. So coming back to vitamin C. Vitamin C as a high, normally we say at least 5 grams for adults daily. Usually I like to say 5 to 10 plus grams. And the higher, the better. Yes, you may have some mild side effects from, for example, diarrhea and, things like that. But that's not big deal. That's actually diarrhea having a lot of vitamin C is, there's a lot of into it. For example, we use vitamin C diarrhea as a cleansing. I never use any of those anti, constipation methods. When people have that problem, you take a lot of oil and also take a lot of vitamin C. That solves the problem. So the diarrhea due to, when you take dose vitamin C is a protective method that you generally says your body is saturated. So, for oral dosage, usually we say 5, 10, or even higher for adults. For young children, usually we say 1 year of age, 1 gram. So 5-year-old, 5 grams vitamin C daily. Go ahead. It's very safe. No, don't worry about it. Okay, that's for IV dose is a little bit different. IV is usually mostly for treatment, and also we use it for anti-aging, for collagen boost. For example, me and my parents, we've been taking this IV injection nearly weekly for like at least 15, maybe 20 years. And we used to take 20, 30 grams weekly. Now we increased up to 50 grams each time. And why do we need IV is because like I mentioned, when you take too high vitamin C by mouth, you begin to have diarrhea. Diarrhea is a body's protection against, too much of these things. So if you want to even higher, then you have to use IV. And that's why we do IV dose. And for general health, for average people, we say probably anywhere between 20 to 50 grams each time. Once a week is probably good enough. And in addition to your daily supplementation,
Mhm.
I take it every day. Yeah,
Uh,
that's very nice.
Richard, may I add something? So I started because of you some months ago to take orally, and I try to remind myself to every full hour I take 1 gram, and I had the feeling I could go up easily to 10, 15 grams per day orally without any dairy. That is one thing. I wanted to have your take on that. And second, uh, going up to 30, 50 grams, I think in doses like that, you should test GPT-6 to be on the safe side, right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah. First of all, coming back to the oral dosage, I don't think we need to be that religious because we have to be practical. A lot of things there's an ideal situation, but also we live in a practical world. I don't think anybody can sit there and drink 1 gram every hour. So so usually what I tend to do is I have one glass at night before going to bed and after waking up, or sometimes I wake up at midnight. So I usually drink more than 5 grams during that 12 hours period. In the morning, at least every other day, I go to badminton. That's a general. During badminton, I drink water anyway, so I probably drink more than 10 grams there. So whenever you get a chance, try to get it in. So all body vitamin C level, at least the storage should be full, and the blood level may fluctuate a little bit, but that's fine. Anytime you begin to have any sort of like signs of cold or any other issues, you may bump up. For example, one thing I want to share with the audience, that this is a little bit sort of contrary to the sort of common perception. The other day, maybe 2 days ago, I had a little bit mild stomach discomfort. I don't know what I ate. Normally, people would stay away from vitamin C. You know what I did? I took a lot of vitamin C right away, and the discomfort went away within like 10 minutes. And this happens all the time. Well, the reason for that is because whatever we eat in our food, sometimes maybe a little bit unhealthy or spoiled, whatever we don't may not even realize. But in general, toxins or things like that, they are oxidants. And vitamin C is the prototypical antioxidant, and it's a toxin, antitoxin. So when you take a lot of vitamin C, it neutralizes these oxidants or toxins, whatever in your gut. And if you have more serious gut issues, what I usually recommend is take a lot, like what we mentioned, take 20, 30 grams or even more to produce diarrhea. The idea is, first of all, saturate your gut and even body with the vitamin C that will be able to antioxidant and also neutralize the toxins. And also, because of the diarrhea you produce, carry away the toxin in the food. And whether it's allergy, because I've used the many experiences, over the last 20 years. People eat crab or seafood, they develop allergy, take a lot of vitamin C. Next day, they're fine. Yeah,
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 absolutely.
that's
That sounds really very promising. And actually, I performed a prospective study on immediate implants in 2014. And it was the biggest study in immediate implants. Um, and Fortunately, when I attended the AO Consensus Conference in 2023 in Phoenix, at the topic of ceramic implants, Academy of Osseointegration, it was rated one of the 13 most relevant out of 1,671 studies on ceramic implants. And what you will love to hear is that we had in about 80% of the cases, we had acute infection at the teeth we took out, but none of the patients would receive an antibiotic. And we just administered 50 grams of vitamin C IV, and we had not one infection. So that is something we we showed in this study. I don't think that it's practical for the daily practice, so we changed it in 3 times each 50 grams, the day prior, the day after, and the day of the surgery. So to be on the safe side regarding the GPT-6. And but it showed that it definitely it works. And I'm not sure if you have seen this study. Otherwise, I will send it right away so you
I
can
think you
look
sent
at
to
it.
me once. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. It's great. Yes. Actually, talking about the mechanisms, think about it. The white blood cells in our body is one of the few areas that concentrates vitamin C. The mast cell, the white blood cells, the brain, and the adrenal glands. That's where you find most of the vitamin C. And we know white blood cells are the first responder to any injury, infection. And one of the very important mechanisms we believe is because vitamin C is being carried by the white blood cells to the battleground, so to speak. And because one time I was talking to a hospital director here in China, and he was so fascinated about vitamin C. I said, you know what? If you really care about it, you give vitamin C to everybody in the hospital. I guarantee you, you will reduce the hospital stay days, post-surgery infection or mortality. I guarantee that. But that
Yeah,
never
yeah.
got carried out because, yeah,
Yeah, another
yeah.
question, Richard. So, I mean, I introduced high dose vitamin C into dental surgery, and some years ago, I proposed the what I call the big five, like vitamin C, vitamin D3, K2, MK7, magnesium, and omega 3. What is your take on that?
Yes.
Would you weight the big five differently, or do you say those
Oh,
as the five
you.
most
I,
important?
I I think I agree with you. Those five are also my top five. You know, so actually last night I was with Tom Levy. We had this Zoom conference on ASCVD. So my message is do our foundation first. You know, do your big five like you mentioned, and if you're able, then expand the big eight. And in my view, I call it a total cell because think about it.
What is the big eight?
Yesterday,
What is the big eight? Which three are?
oh, well, Dr. Levy, sometimes you may add some, for example, CoQ10 or these others. These are
Zinc?
all very critical. Yeah, the message here is that, remember all about chemistry back in the school when I was young. You're still young, or you look young at least. I know your age. But biochemistry usually we're talking about pathways, cascades. We're not talking about one molecule you know. So in modern medicine, we so much reduced to one single molecule. So the point is that, in our energy metabolism pathways, in other biochemical pathways, all these vitamins are involved. For example, vitamin B. How can we not mention vitamin B? Because vitamin B, particularly B3, we know niacin or niacinamide, these B vitamins are critical family of vitamins involving energy production. And as you're comfortably seeing a boat, is because, well, I'm sorry not to put you on the spot, but I always use this joke. I said that unfortunately the world revolves around money. We don't like it, but the truth is the life revolves around energy. Same concept. Money, moves around. So life, we we tend to talk about genetics, this gene, that gene. Yeah, these are all important. But don't forget, if you have to put out anything, just like a fancy phone, if it out of juice, out of battery, nothing happens. Same thing to ourselves. Energy is the key. And but B3 in particular, vitamin B. So how can we not increase that B3? You see what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
and
Makes
also vitamin
absolutely
B1,
sense. Mhm.
B2, particularly for me, I'm still young, but we have to prevent Alzheimer. So B1, B2 are so promising in our brain energy, mental health, you know, and the clinical dose is being tried as high as like 1.8, 1.6 grams compared to like a milligram level of the RDA. That's that's a huge difference, you know. And so that's why I say total cell is because a lot of things we don't really know. And we know this brings back to a few of the things I learned. For example, one thing I learned is that with these vitamins and nutrients, you know, and let me take vitamin D as an example. It's a great example. It's because vitamin D has a safety window. If you take too much, it can be toxic. Okay, so vitamin D, we know the international guideline is that more than 30 nanogram to be sort of into the normal area. Okay, that's by the endocrine society. But then we also know that vitamin D is quite safe. Literature review shows extensively. We recently published two more papers last 2025. Anyway, showing that vitamin D isn't associated any clinical side effects below the dosage blood level of 150 nanogram per ml. Okay, so
What is that in
between 30
international
nanogram,
units, Richard? What is that in
yeah,
international
yeah.
units? You know that?
There are two types of units. You know, nanogram per mil is
Yeah,
one, and the other is nanomole per liter.
yeah,
So be careful. There's a 2.5 difference
yeah,
in
yeah.
between. But let's use nanogram per mil. So between the minimum normal of 30 and the sort of highest safety dosage level of 150, you got a huge window in there. And conventional medicine or RDA may recommend you to go to aim at the 30, like a barely passing. Whereas for me, because we don't know what, anti-aging, for example, cancer prevention, we begin to have more and more evidence. For example, autoimmune diseases oftentimes require much higher vitamin D. Cancer appears to require more vitamin D too. So my position in vitamins and nutrients, for example, taking vitamin D as an example, we should aim to the higher range within the normal range. For example, between 30 and 150 nanogram per mil, I just mentioned, I will shoot for 100. Okay. And for people with certain diseases or weakness or whatever, we may even carefully shoot slightly higher. Don't worry, because we know literature show you. I can go to any court of law again and debate against anybody showing the evidence that it is safe, of course, under supervision. So that's the general principle to vitamins and nutrients. These are very basics. These are very basic building materials. They're consumables, so to speak, for the optimal operation of our life. So I tend to shoot for, let's say, 80%, 90% level of the normal range. And that's my philosophy towards any nutrient.
Okay, perfect. That sounds very reasonable to me. And I mean, Richard, you're a living example of what you are preaching because you are 65 years young and there is not
66, by the way.
66 now. Okay, but there is no.
Turning 67 years old. Unfortunately, well.
And I mean, I'm a little bit envy. So there's no wrinkle in your face, and you're still a world-class badminton player. Do you is your ketogenic diet as well part of this concept? Let us know some.
Actually, okay, you brought up another very important. First of all, I'm not doing this for profession. At my age, I don't need another profession. I'm not. I had boats, but much smaller than yours. Okay, so what I'm saying is that I'm doing this because I want to live a healthy life. Before I'm not trying to learn something to sell to the world. You see what I mean? So uh, yes, this brings up another very important principle. There are so many things on the market. I'm in the field, so I have a lot of things available to me. I can't simply take all of them. Too much. I can't handle, right? So how do we deal with that issue? Again, coming back to this principle, the bottom line first. Okay, vitamins. Why are they called vitamins? It's because without them, by definition, we'll be dead. So these come first. Vitamins, essential nutrients, these come first. Okay, so I have one principle, what I call it is triple principle intervention model. Why do I have these principles? Is because I prepare my, first of all, that's how I convince myself in theory, how I prove this to be reasonable, scientifically based. Also, in case, because as a physician in the United States, people like to sue. In case, like thank God, I haven't, this never happened to me, thank God. But anyway, in case I have to face the court, how I'm going to face the grand jury, explain what I did. Okay, that's why I do this. So, what is a TPIM? Is first of all, well, this is just between you and me, well, public here too. I don't really look at the FDA guidelines or standard guidelines. Those are 20 years old, 30 years old. Okay, I need state of the art. Here's my view of state of the art. So basically, anything that I apply to myself or and my clients or patients has to be safe. You know? So why is it safe? Like I mentioned, somebody was published literature in the literature that people can use vitamin B1 up to 1.8 grams, 1800 milligram a day. Well, that's a piece of evidence of safety. You see what I mean? So something has to be safe, Hippocratic oath. Second is effective. Why do we use it? Because we want to have effects. Well, to be effective, you can have RCT trials to prove. However, even without RCT, for example, HDIVC, high dose vitamin C, I mean, there are quite a few. FDA never approved it. However, I don't need to wait for FDA approval. So, first of all, there are studies to show these things may be effective, and also from the biology or scientific point of view, they may be effective. That's good enough for me. Okay, if it's safe, if it's effective or maybe effective, and also when we deal with diseases that we can, for example, cancer, incurable diseases, or I want to, anti-aging, things that we don't have anything better to offer. So these things we can try. The second principle. Third principle is easy, available and affordable. Can I have it? Can my client use it? Can they afford it? If you can satisfy those principles, just use them. So, well, coming back to your question, ketogenic diet. So, I no longer think of any health condition as, oh, using this, using that. I'm just saying use all of them as much as you can afford and handle. Because like I said, I can't take all the supplements on the market. So I pick and choose. Uh, Diet is one of the very fundamental. In my view, it probably contributes to at least half of the effectiveness. If we eat a wrong diet, no matter how much vitamins and supplements you take, probably won't be as effective. So diet is very critical. I've been doing this, by the way, for 20 years, and like you mentioned, playing badminton. Yes, it gives me a lot of energy. Let me give you audience. On average, I go to play badminton every other day in the morning in an empty stomach. I don't eat breakfast, and I usually play 2.5 hours against people where, how many people 60, 67 on the badminton court. Most players there are 20s, 30s, 30 to 50 are most common, but there are 20s too. So actually, my skill is not that great, okay. But my endurance, I'm pretty proud of. Oftentimes, I would say on a court, at least half, maybe two-thirds of people don't last as long as I do. Why? Simple. They're eating grass. What I say, they're eating grass. They eat rice and bread, and when you burn them off, you don't have much any left. Then you develop a hypoglycemia. You're weak. Whereas me, I'm still in good shape, not as good as you are, but I still have plenty of fat that can continuously burn to deliver energy. That's very important. That brings up. Well, I don't want to go and give a lecture, but anyway, one of the key things in my view of what I call physiological resilience is our ability to continuously produce energy and optimal energy production. That's key. Again, energy. Our body is money. When you have money, then you can live on ocean on a boat, and your cells can run on an empty stomach. You know. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think in the difficult times we are already living in, and it might even yeah, become more difficult. Resilience is the key. If it's emotional resilience, if it's psychological resilience, but as well, I think nutritional resilience, that is exactly what we had to have 10,000 years ago, because there we had no supermarket, we had no freezer, and sometimes we would have to hunt or to um, look for food for several days. So we had to be resilient and to be independent from food. And I'm trying to follow a quite ketogenic diet as well. And it's an amazing feeling to see to be kind of independent from food. So what I started many years ago is 16/8. And I have now added since several months 24/0 for once a week. And so it's just nothing for me to stop eating for 24 hours. And it feels great, and that is exactly the resilience you're
Yeah.
talking about. And
Yeah.
Richard, I could listen to you for hours and talk to you for hours, and we will have you very soon in Zurich, in Switzerland again. But unfortunately, we have to come to the end of this interview. And I always, with my interview partners, I'm closing the interview with the question: Is there a life motto, a quote, a book, or a film you would like to leave our audience with?
So, what do you, in one word?
No, no, no.
Okay.
Not in one word. You have you have all the time.
Well, actually, enjoy. I don't know, but let's say, uh, life revolves around money. I mean, I'm sorry, life revolves around energy. Focusing on energy production. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Enjoy life. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yes,
Yeah.
I think that is a very good last quote for our audience. And I thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're extremely busy, and we can't wait to have you in Switzerland again.
Ac-
And
Actually, can I tell you one thing?
yeah, of
Your
course.
audience may be interesting. Like I mentioned, a lot of things what I've said, we are building this I-om.ai, and we can all of these things can be learned from there. Focus on this is AI for integrative also molecular medicine. It's all my thoughts, principles, and those things, the little things I talked about, much more than that, will be reflected in that on the OI. Yes. I mean, I can't wait to share with you.
Yeah, and I think it fits perfectly into the topic
Mm.
of our Congress, Two Worlds, Evidence and Intelligence. Because I mean, what I really like about your approach that everything what you're using, what you're recommending is evidence-based. And on the other side, you're including a lot of artificial intelligence. So taking the both of two worlds and bringing it together, I think that is exactly the future, what is going to drive us forward. So, Richard, thank you so much for taking the time,
Thank you
and
again. Yeah.
yeah, and see you very soon. We are going to kill you with questions. I'm
Sure. Sure.
I'm
Bring them on.
I'm I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I wish you all the best and see you very soon, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah. Okay.